Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. Um, couldn't be much better of a day. Could be a little bit cooler here, but you can't complain. Got sunny skies, and it's not bad. It's about 80 degrees outside, so we're doing very well here. So, welcome to Encompass Parts, Simply Parts, uh, the our virtual training. Where, of course, Encompass is the leading provider of original replacement parts and after sales service. Goes without saying, they want to be your parts that you go to. They want to make sure that they can do everything that you need them to do. Uh, they try to have their parts at least, you know, as low as everybody else, and give you exemplary service. And look at all the other things that they offer. They offer this virtual classes two times a week, sometimes three times a week. Um, there are, if you go out there, you can see that there are. If you go to the Encompass training site, you can actually go down and look at what is coming up on the upcoming classes. We're just now getting into just now getting into refrigerator seasons. So today's topic is refrigerator ice makers. I tried to give basically the 4 or 5 most prevalent refrigerator that are out there. You know, the big box stores, the ones they sell. So we're gonna go on and start with that. That's going to be our class today. I wanted to go ahead and show you some of the things that we have coming up. You don't need to look at my emails; they're ugly. Okay, so we had on June the 3rd, we had a lock ring class. Then, if you missed it, June the 4th, Juan Morales had a class. That was yesterday. And then today we're on that's wrong right there. That is not what we're doing today. This is at the Davie Training Center. I'm sorry, I didn't go down far enough. Okay, so that's at the Davie Training Center between 9 and 4. They had an LG wash combo heat pump. If you didn't make that, they've got another one there at the Davie Training Center, and that's going to be the LG refrigerator with R600. The one that you have today that we have is diagnosing and repairing ice makers. This is the 101 class, so it's for all techs. Then if you go on and you get to the Lawrenceville Training Center, they have a 4-day training. That one does cost $975. Okay. Interesting. It says right here, be one of the first 5 people to register, and it's free this month. So if you haven't done that, you might want to get out there and see if you can't register. And it's not even, they're going to waive the $975 fee. Then on Tuesday, we're gonna talk about a commercial ice maker. This is one that we're gonna go through, and it's just a general one. Then on the 11th and the 12th, they have a 2-day in-person training. That's get you certified in lock ring. That's a hands-on training. That's at the Tipton Industrial Drive there in Lawrenceville. Then on LG, on the 12th, we've got the LG Craft Ice Maker. I did that about 6 or 7 months ago, and I've done a couple of updates to it. And we're gonna sit down and go through the LG Craft Ice Maker. I love this ice maker. I am a bourbon drinker. This craft ice is great for me because it just takes 1 cube. Then after that, we have the lock ring. After that, we have the lock ring introduction to the system. This is the virtual class. That's on the 17th. On the 19th, we have the Scotsman DC33 ice maker. If you have ever worked on an under-the-counter ice maker, you probably have worked on a DC33. Then on the 24th, we've got a virtual, an understanding of the wiring schematics. Then on the 26th, we have the Manitowoc Flaker Nugget machine. If you ever worked on one of those are fun. The Flaker Nugget machine, the Nugget machine is actually like what they use at Sonic. That's the ice maker that you whenever you get ice from Sonic, that's that kind of ice. So you'll have plenty to do around there. So let me stop sharing. We're going to go back and we're going to start our refrigerator ice maker class. At the very end of the class, there's a minute and 30-second presentation. It explains basically the where Encompass is located. If you notice the dock in the program, that's actually the dock from the Encompass in there in Lawrenceville. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about the Whirlpool, the new Whirlpool ice maker and the old Whirlpool ice maker. So what's the difference between the new one and the old one? The new one is a flex tray. Every manufacturer now has gone to a flex tray ice maker. Whenever I first started in this business back in 1978, there was the Norge ice maker that was the flex tray. Okay. The surprising thing is that nobody has gone and redone the Norge ice maker. Everybody has gone to almost the old GE. GE had a flex tray ice maker for a year or two, and then they went to the standard heat mold ice maker. So the difference is the new ice maker is a flex tray. The old ice maker is a heat mold ice maker. We're going to sit down and go through the new and the old here with the Whirlpool. Okay. Here is the new flex tray ice maker. You can notice that there's the fill cup right there. Then if you notice, there's a power button, and then there is a test button, and then there's the bail arm on the bottom. You want to make sure that if I'm putting this into the test mode, I want to hold that bail arm up so that it doesn't go down, or else it has a funny cycle. So let's talk about, here's the side-by-side refrigerator. The top mount was the one that we kind of went through. The other one, I'm going to show you about the ice maker, because this one is a little bit more difficult to get out. And the other one, it basically just sits there, and you can it slides in and slides out with a very easy. I think it's 2 screws that holds it in. This one is the side-by-side. The side-by-side refrigerator is a little bit more difficult. So if you look down at the pictures, okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the cover. So how do I remove that cover? I'm going to have to take a flat-headed screwdriver, okay? I'm going to insert it into that little area. You can see it in the back. It's not a great picture, but go ahead and look to the second picture. If you look right there, that's what you're doing, is you're pressing that down so that you can actually just, once you press it down, you can pull it out, and it will come out, and you can set it on the side. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the Molinex plug. Okay. Once I unplug that Molinex plug, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out. I'm going to take my what's the word? My putty knife. I'm going to take my short, small putty knife. I'm going to stick it down in the side right there. You can see right there where it's being where that putty knife is being placed. I'm going to press down on it. That will allow me, once I do that, I can lift up on that ice maker. Once I lift up on that ice maker, I can now just pull it out. Okay. So I'm going to pull it straight out, because if I don't, what will happen is if I have removed my putty knife, which I have done before, I have removed my putty knife, and then all of a sudden it snaps and it falls back into place, and I have to redo it all over. Okay, so I'm going to pull that straight out. You can see right there where the technician has got it in his hand and he's pulling out on it. Okay, once I do that, okay, I can take the putty knife again. I'm going to release the tab. It's showing right there on the first slide. That's how you release that tab. I'm pushing it in. Whenever I push it in, that's going to allow me to. It's going to allow me to open the ice maker body up. You can see it right there. Right. Once I do that, I can unplug the head from the Molinex. Then I have separated my ice maker. So that's how to get it out. Now let's talk about the codes. That is one thing about the new ice maker. I can go in and I can go in and check my codes. Okay. So if I have a fault code and it's 45, the number 45 is my fault code. Okay. The ice maker mold thermistor, okay, shows that the temperature sensed at the ice maker, I'm sorry, I messed that one up, will be somewhere around 20 degrees to minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature is measured with the gauge at the ice maker mold, or if it's open, it'll be a total short. If I get a 68, my ice maker evaporator thermistor shows that the temperature sensed by the thermistor itself passes within 10 degrees of the temperature measure and the gauge of the evaporator thermistor location. OP if it's open, or SH if it's shorted. Okay. One of the other things is if you get a 0, it's telling you need a firmware parameters. This is a difficult thing to do. The main reason is that you have to make sure that the board that you get actually has that correct firmware on it. I had a technician call me and said, listen, I've replaced 3 or 4 of these boards and it's still reading that 0. So it is the firmware had not been updated. So you've got to go and update that firmware before you get it in. Okay. If I get the main board, that tells me I got a bad main board. Then if I get a 3, I've got a firmware issue again. But if going back to the ice maker, it could tell me that my activation, the front door of the UI, I can press hold the water and the crush ice pads for up to 10 seconds. Then I can press plus or minus to adjust the 3 fill settings. So this is how I adjust the fill. So if I am not getting enough ice, okay, I'm going to press the plus button. If I'm getting too much water and it's causing it to overfill, ends up in the bucket, I'm going to press the minus button, and that will, if I press it once, that gets me to my lowest setting for the plus. And of course, if it's a minus, that's gonna make one thing less ice. If I get a whole bunch, I'm probably going to start with it be the second setting for the minus, and then I'm going to cycle it again. Once I cycle it again, I'm going to see what kind of fill I get. If I get the right fill level, and it's just below where the cubes separate, that'll be a good fill. If I still have too much, I can take it down to the third fill cycle. If I get one, and usually the problem is going to be I don't get enough water in. So if I don't get enough water in, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and make sure that I get the correct PSI at the water valve. Okay, because what will happen is if I get a water valve, and I'll give you a perfect example. If I have an RO system, reverse osmosis, that only delivers about 4 psi at a good setting at the refrigerator. You may get 2 or 3 psi what you'll happen is I'm going to end up with water that still drips down into the tray, and it's going to cause an issue with it. So you got to make sure that you're not on like an RO system. But if I check it and I've got the correct PSI, and I'm going to then go and check the inlet for the Icemaker. I'm going to probably pull that inlet out, put it into a cup, a measuring cup. I'm going to fill that up, and I should get about 6 to 8 ounces. I think that's what it is, 6 to 8. And that is going to tell me that I've got the correct amount of water. If I don't, then I can adjust it using this press and hold the water in the crush pads for about 10 seconds. Okay. If I have one of those that has the side door activation, okay, I'm going to do the Icemaker on and off and the power freeze pads. Okay, so that's going to tell me that I have an example of one a little bit later on for that activation, and I'll show you that one. Okay, so once again, to activate it, I'm going to press F2, then I can go the FF, and then the temperature pads for up to 10 seconds simultaneously. Press the FF plus or the FF minus to move forward or backward. Okay, then I'm going to press FF up for 10 seconds. Then the FF diagnostic mode will automatically deactivate after 5 seconds of inactivity. So that's something that you need to know. Okay, so if I have a 5.2C, that tells me that I have a bad Icemaker thermistor. If I get a 5.5C, that tells me that I have an issue with the water valve. So I'm going to remove the ice tray. I'm going to collect the water into a measuring container. And then I'm going to collect the water into the ice tray, perform the test 6.3C, okay, to empty into the ice tray. Then I'm going to hit 5.7C. That's the evaporator fan. If I have a 5.8C, that tells me that my ice level sensor is bad. Okay. If I have a 6.3, that tells me that my twist tray is not working properly. Okay. Now, this is the old style Icemaker. This is the one that I actually love. The one thing that I did not mention is I'm talking Whirlpool, but you know that Whirlpool makes about 6 other brands, okay? Whirlpool makes Whirlpool. They make Roper. They make Maytag. They make Amana. They make KitchenAid. The sixth one, I said Roper. I'm trying to think of the sixth one. It doesn't. I can't. I've lost it. But this is what I learned whenever I was coming through school. Okay, is a Whirlpool ice maker. If you look at this, and if I pull the cap off, okay, I've got two ways to take the cap off. Okay, the cover that's on top of the ice maker. Everybody says, "Oh, I use a screwdriver." Well, I always carried a quarter in my pocket. Okay, that's what I made sure that I had if I was on the ice maker, was I had a quarter. I can actually take that quarter, put it in the slot, and I can twist that quarter, and that will take the cover off. Now, whenever the cover comes off, this is what it looks like on the inside. You can't really tell in the pictures. So what I had to do was I had to notice, I had to label these so that you could see it. If you have this in your hand, you can actually read the N, the M, the H, the T, the L, the V. You can read all that, but you have to really look good at it. I'm getting old, and it's a little bit more difficult for me to be able to read all that. But this is what they are. So my N is my neutral. My M is my motor. My H is my heater. My T is my thermostat. My L is line voltage, and my V is the water valve. Okay. So as I come in, before I remove this, I have popped the cap off, and the first thing that I'm going to do, if it's me, I'm going to take my meter, and I'm going to go between L and N. Between L and N, I should read 110 to 130 volts. Whatever the line voltage is on the house is what I will read. Okay. If I go, so that's the very first one that I'm going to do, is I'm going to check by going by L to N, and that's my line voltage. Okay. If I go between I'm going to take a jumper wire. Okay. I'm going to tell you how I do it. Okay. I've already told you that that's 120 volts. I have seen a couple of videos of technicians going in and taking a paper clip and going between T and H. Let me tell you what, that is 120 volts. If you don't think that'll straighten your hair or can't make it kinky, and mine it'll be make it kinky because I got my hair is about as straight as you can get. That's 120 volts. If I'm standing in water, guess what? It doesn't want to let go. Okay. But if I go in between T and H, what I use is a number 12 gauge wire. I take it and cut about this much off. You can cut it. I have seen technicians that have 10 inches on them. You don't really need 10 inches. The longest one that you're going to need is between T and N. Okay. If I go between, the longest one is between L and N. Okay. But if I go between T and H, that is what will start the ice maker. Whenever I start that ice maker, I'm looking I'm looking back at the ice maker. Once I go between T and H, what's going to happen is the ice maker arms are going to try to go down. This ice maker has a heater in it. This activates this heater. It will now back up and then go back down, and then back up and then go back down. So it will bounce there until the ice maker heater gets it warm enough that it has enough force that it will force it out, and now I've got ice. So that's what happens if I go between T and H. Okay. If I go between V and L, that is a direct connect between my water valve and line voltage. It will actually activate the water valve, and I better have a cup or something right there, because if I'm not paying attention, it'll run it out into the bucket or whatever is in the bottom of the refrigerator. Okay, so that opens the water valve if I go between V and L. Okay, if I go between N and M, okay, if I do that, I will start the Icemaker motor. Okay, that's how I'm testing the motor to make sure that the Icemaker motor is good. If it's not good, you will hear it and it grinds. It has a grinding sound. So that means that I've got a bad motor. Now, most people take and just replace the whole head. Just so you know, you can just replace the motor. I'll show it to you in just a minute. Okay. If I go between H and N, that's the heater and the motor. Okay. That starts the Icemaker heater. So that way I can check that heater. I have put those two my jumper in between those 2 points. I can sit there and let it go for about 10 or 15 seconds. I can feel it on the bottom of the Icemaker where the heater is. I can tell if that my heater is any good. Okay. Now, if something happens and I want to check it with resistance, I'm going to have to unplug it. Once I unplug it, which I'm going to have to take the Icemaker down to do that, I'm going to unplug it, and I can then measure volts. Okay, if I go between L and H, okay, so if I go between line voltage and the heater, okay, I should read 72 ohms. If I go between line voltage and the motor, I should read somewhere around 4.4 to 5 ohms. If I go between the V and the N, okay, that is going to be about 300 ohms. If I go between T and H, I should show continuity if the bimetal is closed. If the bimetal is open, I'm going to show infinite resistance. Okay? We're going to stop right there. Does anybody have any questions so far? I'm going to give you a second to measure. If you got any comments, also put in the bottom right hand side, and hit the post button, the little arrow, and it will show you on the screen. Okay, nobody's got any questions. We're going to go ahead and move on. Okay, so if I'm going to have to change it out, I'm going to have to unplug it. I do not like messing with line voltage. Okay, so I am going to unplug it, and the way that I have to unplug it is that I have to remove this 3/4 inch screws that are right where they're showing right there. Okay, that's right there on the Icemaker itself. Okay, there's one at the top that's on the back. There's one in the front. That's the hardest one to get, is the one that's in the front if I'm working on a side-by-side. The one on the bottom is very easy to get. The biggest problem with the one on the bottom is that you're going to drop that screw about 80% of the time. I have a piece of my 1/4 inch nut driver. I actually have a piece of plumber's putty that whenever I'm going to remove it, I put a little dab of plumber's putty in there, and that whenever I push that in, it will hold it. Okay, so that's how I do it. I can do it for all. If I see that I'm going to have to pull it, I'm going to put my little chunk of plumber's putty in there, and I can do it with all three, and then I don't have to worry about it. Because what will happen is the top two, if you don't do them right, they'll actually fall down into the ice maker, and then you got to be careful that you don't throw them; they don't drop out in whenever you're trying to get them out. Okay. Once I do that, I have got the ice maker down, and the Mullinex plug that's on the left-hand side there behind the ice maker, I can get to that. It actually has a little a locking piece on it. I can stick my finger in. I can pop that up, and that little pin will pop in, and then I can pull that whole ice maker out. Once I get that ice maker out, I am going to take and put that down on a towel so that I don't damage anything in the customer's home. You can take it to your truck. Most of the time, whenever I was in an apartment complex, that's not the easiest way to do it. It's easier for me to carry a towel in. But this comes to a point. Okay, if I am going to have to pull the refrigerator out at all, I've got three things that I have got to do. Number one, I have to have flooring protection. If I don't have flooring protection, I run the risk of damaging the floor. There's nothing worse than damaging a customer's floor. If you're a one-man show like I was, whenever I first started out, I was a one-man show. That will kill you if you get a damage claim. Okay. The other thing so I'm going to have some kind of flooring protection to pull the refrigerator out. That was back whenever I was talking about getting to the water valve. Okay. If I am going to pull this ice maker, I need a towel. So I'm going to put a towel down, and then I can work on this ice maker and not worry about damaging the customer's home. I actually have instead of a towel, I have a little mat that I can roll up that I like to use. The other thing is my tools always go on top of a mat. I have a special mat just for my tools. I don't want to damage anything in the customer's house. I have been out behind a technician later on in life and realized just what not a smart person he was. Okay. So make sure that you've got the right PPE equipment. Not only on top of that, I always enter the house with booties on. Whenever I leave, I always have a pair of booties. So I make sure that I can't have a customer come to me and say, I need you to remove your shoes. Everybody knows, I hope, that if by me removing my shoes, I have just broken an OSHA law. You are required to have shoes on in a home. So if a customer tells you, I have had many customers saying, I need you to remove your shoes. My response there is, that's why I have on booties. It is against OSHA policy for me to remove my shoes. I'm sorry, we can't do that. Okay. So moving along now, we've got our ice maker. It's out on my mat. I'm making sure that what I can do is, if I want to, I can actually undo I got to go back. I'm sorry. I forgot to tell you to do this. Okay. So right here, I can depress with my needle nose pliers. I can squeeze those two together, and this little wheel will pull off. Once I pull that wheel off, I can now actually undo these three pins that are inserted into this ice maker head. You can buy that. The problem is, if I buy that, usually the whole thing is not but about another $10 or $15. Just so you know, you have to be careful, okay? And I'm not telling you that this is how you need to do it. But if something happens and you're trying to get it so that the customer has ice and you need to look at it, there are some of the dryer motors will fit in this unit. You have to be very careful. You have to look at the back, see how many what kind of voltage it runs on, how many amps that motor's pulling, and I can do all that. But I can fix it so that if I've got the right part, I can fix it so that I actually I can leave the customer happy so that they get ice. So how do I do this? I take and put this. If you look right here, it's very difficult to see where those little pins are, but that's where they fit on the right-hand side there. They just snap, they just twist on and twist off. So if I'm going to take the Icemaker motor out, I'm going to reach in and grab it, and I'm going to twist it counterclockwise. I'm sorry, I'm going to twist it clockwise. My fault. I'm going to twist that clockwise. That will open. You can tell where the holes get larger. That will allow me to take that motor out, and if I can replace that motor if need be. Okay, I'm going to talk about everybody's favorite Icemaker. Okay, there is an Icemaker out there for Samsung. Okay, that Icemaker, which is this Icemaker right here, goes into, this is for a Samsung 4-door refrigerator. My father has one. I just replaced the motor, this whole Icemaker. Okay. The first thing that I need to do is I need to learn how I'm going to get this out. This is a challenge to get this out. Okay. So what I'm going to do, if you look right here, this is the most common problem with an Icemaker. I get excessive buildup that causes an ice jam. If you look right there on the right-hand side, you can tell the ice that has frozen into this. This is actually my father's refrigerator, and I took pictures of it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do to check is I'm going to check around the outside for leaks. I'm going to go to the very top, take a flashlight and shine it. And then I'm going to look at the back. Once I have removed this, I'm going to go look at the back and see if I can see light that's going through there. That's the first thing that they tell you to do. That, and then go down the side, do the same thing. If I see light, there is a kit that Samsung makes that you can replace it. You can replace the stuff on it. This is white. What I have is I actually have some white tape that I use to seal that. You can use silicone, but I get the same color. I'm going to get like an almond or a white. It depends on what the inside of the refrigerator looks like. You could use that. Before I do that, I'm going to tell the customer what I'm doing, though, so that they don't freak out. Okay. Then once I verify that I'm done, I'm going to have to put this unit into a forced defrost. Okay. So once I do that, I got to be very careful. After it goes into a forced defrost, I may have to run this twice. With this Icemaker right here, I literally had to run this twice through the forced defrost mode. Once I ran it through the forced defrost mode, which was an hour and 10 minutes later, I was able to get the Icemaker so I could get it out. What I can do is I can put it into a forced defrost. If I have it set for a forced defrost, and and it goes through and it kicks out, and I still have I don't have the ability that I can remove the ice maker out. You'll be able to tell. I'll show you in a few minutes. I can actually take my steamer, and I can use my steamer to defrost it the rest of the way. I have to be very careful with that. I can't try to pull this ice maker out without dropping. You've got to be able to drop the ice maker, and I have to be very careful with that because there is a refrigerant line that runs across underneath this ice maker. If I mess this up, okay, and I rupture that line, you can't fix it. So not only have I ruined an ice maker, I've now ruined the whole refrigerator. So now I've just had to buy a refrigerator. Like I said, my father has one of these Samsung ice makers. This is the fourth ice maker in 6 years that I put in this thing. So you have to be careful whenever you're doing this. And I've worried every time that I go to mess with this. I've worried about have I got it just so I can get it out? Okay. So once I do that, I can separate the ice maker and from the refrigeration tube, trying to remove it. If the line ruptures, like I said, that you have to replace the whole unit. Okay. Here's how to put it in a forced defrost. This is my father's refrigerator. So you have to go from the top left button to the right center button. That allows you to put it in forced defrost. I hold that button for about 5 to 9 seconds, and you'll see it the center will light up. I'll spit it out in a minute. Okay. So I simultaneously punch the top left button and the center button. This will cause this unit to start. So once that unit starts, I've got to use the light button. If I mash the button again, I go to a FD, which stands for forced defrost. Once I hit the first one comes up, I now hit the lighting button, and I can't remember what it goes to, but the third one for my dad's is FD. Okay, so what will happen? Once I have this turned down to FD, it will actually beep. Okay. Then not only will it beep, it will continue to beep. And it beeps about every 10 to 20 seconds. Okay. So once you do that, excuse me. Once that actually happens, depending on how much ice is on it, like I said, it could run from 20 minutes up to an hour. If you're not able to remove it, or the bucket is the unit is still not defrosted, then you can actually manually defrost it. I did it twice because I had the time. The only thing that's annoying is that it beeps. Okay, it will beep and beep and beep. So if I had to, I can press those simultaneously, the top left and the middle, and that'll take it out. Okay. The ice maker removal. This is after you've run it through the forced defrost. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this screw right here. This is a Phillips head screw. Okay. Once I remove that screw is at a 45-degree angle. That's the only thing that I like about this. With it being at a 45-degree angle, I can get my screwdriver in there and turn it. Because if it was on the back side, I mean on the whenever it was on farther end of the back, you couldn't remove it. So at least you can remove this. Once I remove that screw, I'm going to take my fingers and go right there where the very top is. I got enough room to put one finger in it, and I can pull it forward. Once I pull it forward, I can take and put the cover down, put that screw inside the cover. The reason I tell you to do that is because we're going to remove a bunch of other screws, and you want to be sure that you're putting the same screw in that you took out. Okay. So I now have exposed the wiring harness, and all I got to do is separate the plug by depressing that tab. Okay. Once I do that, okay, I use the force defrost. And I'm going to, like this one right here, you can already tell you that you need to run the steamer on this one. So I've now used my steamer, and I've gotten it so I have none of this ice that's in there. So what the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Phillips head screw right here, okay? I'm going to take that screw out. Once I remove that screw, okay, that will allow me to separate my duct, okay? So once I separate that duct, how do I separate it? I take and push down and over, and that will allow me to pull it. That'll allow me to remove it. Once I get that duct down, I can look right there, and you can see that refrigerant line that is located right there. Whenever I get ready and I'm going to pull that refrigerant line down, there is a piece of mastic that sticks to. If this is the original one, it has a little mastic on it that whenever you get a new one, it doesn't come with it. So, like I said, this is like the fourth Icemaker that I have put in this unit. So I'm trying to get it. I'm not sure you can see it, but right here, if you notice, there's no mastic right here. It's gone. They don't give you any more whenever you replace it. Okay, so I can separate that refrigerant line. Being careful again not to damage that, because I've just bought a refrigerator. If I do, don't use a screwdriver or a pair of pliers. Your fingers, nothing but your fingers. Okay. Now, once I've done that, okay, once I've separated that, I can now reach up to the top, and I can depress this button right here. I'm going to press this button down, and then I'm going to pull forward, because what happens is, give me just a second, where you see right here, I've got coming from the Icemaker inside. This sits here like this. So I'm pulling this forward. That releases it out of the clips, and that then I can take the whole Icemaker out. Okay. So I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to unclick the harness that I've got, depress the tab. Once I've depressed that tab, I'm ready to pull that Icemaker out. It'll fall out. So you have to be careful. Once again, if it falls out and I rupture that line, I have now bought myself a refrigerator. Okay. So whenever I've got the Icemaker removed, this is what it looks like. The cavities should look just like this. Okay. One of the things that I will tell you, that you need to go back to this back area right here on the back. One of the things that I have noticed that I have had to do is I have actually had to go in and use a little I actually used a little bit of plumber's putty, because there's a little gap in here that you get a little air through, and that will cause this whole motor assembly around here to freeze up also. Okay. So I did that, and I haven't had any problems with that. Okay. But the one thing I want to make sure of, I need to go to the very top right here. I need to inspect the fill tube. Okay. If this fill tube has gotten moved or somebody's messed with it, it's probably not going to be showing as far out as it should, and this will actually spray water all over the back of the unit. Okay, the unit. This is what you need to do is you need to inspect it, because you can call the buildup with the Icemaker or the ice bucket because it'll actually spray. If you need to adjust the fill tube length, make sure to place the down floor protection, pull the refrigerator out carefully, looking for the clearances in the line. So now, how do I adjust it? The first thing that I have to do is I have to pull the refrigerator out. I'm going to remove this plastic tape. Once I remove this plastic tape, I'm going to remove the screw clamp holding both of the water lines in. If you look right there, there's a Phillips head right there that you use. So now I'm depress this locking collar with a small flat bladed screwdriver, and I can either move in or move out that line. So whatever I have got to do to make sure that this line is not too far out, not too far in. It should be just flat. Okay. After the adjustments are made, all I'm going to do is I'm going to reinstall that locking clip, and then I'm going to place tape back over the line. I can tell you that whenever I did this with my dad's, I actually had to throw this piece of tape away because it was only good for one time. One of the good things that I used was a piece of duct tape to hold it. Okay. Then only thing I got to do to reinstall it, place the Icemaker into the tray housing, slide the Icemaker back until it clicks. Okay. The first thing I've got to do is make sure that I'm in this position right here. At this point, I'm in between right here. Let's see if I can get it so you can actually see it. If you can't, in between right here, is where you insert it. If you look at the very back right here, you can see where that line comes in. Hang on, I'm trying to get it. There it is. Okay. You can actually see where that line comes in. Okay. So I'm going to put that refrigerant line back to the bottom of that housing. It will stick. You have to push up on it. Don't push too hard. Once again, like I said, every time that I have had to go and replace my dad's, oh my gosh, I worried about it every time, because I sure didn't have $2,300 to replace his refrigerator. Okay, so I'm going to install the cover and the screw. Then I'm going to install the Icemaker bucket. Then have the customer throw away 2 batches of the ice after I have replaced the Icemaker. It won't hurt you, but it does give you a funny taste. Okay, if I have a different Icemaker than this Icemaker, okay, on the over-under refrigerator, it looks like this right here. There's a test button on the very bottom. The Icemaker will produce 8 cubes per cycle. Okay, that will produce 100 to 130 cubes in a 24-hour period. That is dependent upon the compartment temperature. How many times the door is open affects it. The room temperature affects it. The number of door opening and closing affects it. So usually I'm going to get somewhere like in 110 cubes a day is all it's going to get. Whenever I first started, there was 3 pounds. The Icemakers would produce 3 pounds of ice a day. The Whirlpool, the GE, those all that had that heat mold Icemaker would produce 3 pounds of ice a day. This one makes 130 cubes a day at the most. Okay. So be sure nothing interferes with sweep arm. So I'm going to go out there and double check it. If I see that I got something that interferes with that sweep arm, of course I have to remove it. Okay. Then once again, there's a little that little test button on the bottom. Some of them have I think it's a green, a little green light that comes on to tell you that the Icemaker is on and that it's working properly. If it turns red, you know that you got an Icemaker issue and you need to go figure out what it is. After the Icemaker has been turned on again, there's a time delay for the Icemaker to resume operation. So if I'm replacing this, you have to make sure that you've given it plenty of time. So it's normal for several cubes to be joined together on this Icemaker. If ice is not used frequently, old ice cubes will become cloudy. They will taste stale. They can actually take on the taste of anything that was in the refrigerator. So if I had a piece of fish that wasn't insulated real well, I can get a fish taste. Okay. So if you don't want it to make ice, all I got to do is turn the Icemaker on off button. So if I'm going out of town, I'm going to turn my Icemaker off, just like it always is. Okay. When the ice making function is selected, the Icemaker will start whenever the temperature is below 18 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the Icemaker function will start. So number one, if you're replacing this Icemaker, you've got to let this unit get back down to 18 degrees before it will ever start. On some of the new Icemakers, you have to be down to 0. Okay. GE. Let me tell you about GE. GE is my new favorite Icemaker. I have a this unit right here. Okay, you can buy this at Encompass. This is a picture off of the unit. If you want the part number is a WX05X15005. It's $199. Is that everything do I get everything for $199? Actually, it's $205 by the time you get taxes. And if you just have them ship it, you get the shipping charge unless you get free shipping. So you're going to get that, but I still have to pay a fee. Okay. I have to pay a fee for this, and it's $600 every year. What does that give me? That gives me parts information, wiring schematics, service updates. If I need a firmware update, I can actually, once I plug this unit into the refrigerator, it will actually tell me, hey, you need a firmware update. We talked about it in the Whirlpool side of it. Okay, they're in the process of coming up with something like this, but right now GE is only one. Besides Samsung is also starting to do it. It's not real popular right now, but this GE is a handheld unit. It ties into a tablet. I recommend a tablet. I can plug it into my phone. But the problem with me using my phone is the stuff is so small. If I've got a tablet, I can enlarge the picture and see the wiring schematic where I can actually read it. If I need a parts list, now I'm going to have the hiccups. If I have a parts list, I can expand that so that I can actually read the part numbers and see exactly what I need. If I'm doing a service bulletin, I can enlarge it so that I can read the service bulletin. I can do what the service bulletin says. Or if I need to order a part, I have the parts that I can order right there from that. I can call Encompass, and Encompass will go ahead. If I've got if I have the app, for Encompass, all I have to do is go to my parts, pull that part up, order it right there. Then I'll know when it's going to get to me, and I can arrange the customer's callback. Okay. This is for any GE product made between 2017 to today. So one of the things about the GE is that the firmware updates, I can do it. That right there to me is worth it. If I'm running GE calls, I'm going to have that. This is a great little tool. I actually have one. I have yet to come up and give them $600, but that is something that's great. Okay, this is the old Icemaker. Okay, this is the water. This one is very simple. Okay, I've got a motor gear. I've got a motor timing gear, and I've got the water fill replacement, the adjustment switch. Okay, so I'm gonna look at this unit right here. Most of the time, what I'm going to find is, and I'll tell you, if you look really closely at this timing gear right here, if you look where the motor gear is, if you follow that down and count over 1, 2, 3 spots, you will see how how it's flat right there. That's not supposed to be flat. Okay, they're all supposed to look like all the rest of the gears. So what will happen is the motor will start advancing around. It will get to that one gear and it will stop. It will not advance anymore. So now I've got to replace this little gear. I have to be very careful because the motor gear itself, it will rupture the motor gear, and then I've got to replace both the motor and this little timing gear. But still, this is a very simple thing. If I get to it and it hasn't gotten too bad, I can actually adjust this motor, and I can pull it down tighter so that it will not it won't slip as much. Okay, my water fill adjustment screw, it's just like it's showing. Okay, if I want more water, I'm going to turn that so that screw gets short, gets longer. If I want to put make it shorter time fill, all I do is screw that screw in. Okay, so if I'm backing it out counterclockwise, that will lengthen my time that I get. Now, never go but 1/4 of a turn at a time, because you will get it the first time or two that it's going to do. It'll probably be okay. But what will happen is you're going to end up coming back, and the reason is you took that water fill adjustment out too far, and now you've run that down into the bin itself. Okay, now we're going to talk about my favorite. This is the LG Craft Ice. Okay, like I said, I'm a bourbon drinker. I like a big chunk of ice, and this chunk of ice, if you look right here, this is how it works. Of course, you get it in, it fills up. Once it fills up, it will get ready to eject, and I get ice that's about that far. You can see how big that ice is. Okay, right there, it's a 2-inch diameter ice. So that is a frozen solid ice. So that one cube is all I need for that one time. I will never need another cube. unless I'm sitting out on the back and it's 100 degrees, and I don't drink bourbon whenever it's that hot. I usually go to iced tea. It's way too hot. But I do enjoy in the wintertime my bourbon, and this is my favorite way to do this. Okay. So like I said, this is a 2-inch diameter. Okay. So if the thermostat is off, turn it on. I'm going to have to wait 18 to 30 hours for the first batch of ice to be produced. So this is like whenever I first install, I'm going to have to turn it on. Now, I will tell you that I have talked to technicians that have run these calls, and most of the time, by turning the switch off, letting it be off for a minute and turning it back on, a lot of the times that will take care of it. Something happens, they don't know what it is, but they're working on that. Okay, but if I've got my GE Smart HQ, it will actually tell me what the issues are. It will tell me any problems that it is showing. It will tell me that my ice maker is working. It will tell me how many cubes of ice or how many times it's dumped. I really like the Smart HQ. Okay. So once again, if I turn this off or it gets turned off and I have to turn it back on, it takes me another 18 to 30 hours. That's what it takes for this thing to reset. Okay. If the ice maker still doesn't produce ice, I'm going to place the ice maker into the test mode. Okay. Remove the ice bucket, place a large pan underneath the space where the bucket was located. I'm going to press the test button for 3 seconds. Okay. Once I press that test button, once I press that test button, it will actually cycle that unit, and it will do everything from add water. If I've got any ice in it, it will dump that out. If it doesn't have any ice in it and it's got water in it, it'll dump that water out. Then it will fill. Once it fills, it'll stop, and it will act like it's working. So I've got to be sure that I've got that bucket underneath, because I'm either going to get ice or water in that bucket, and I want to make sure that I'm not having to clean up behind myself. Okay, so that's how I test this. Once again, most of the time it will, if I've got the Smart HQ, it will tell me how to do this. Okay, I used to work for Frigidaire. Okay, here's the old Frigidaire ice maker. Okay, so also, if I'm working for Frigidaire and I'm going to work on the ice maker, the first thing I'm going to do is take my quarter and stick it at the very top. I can twist it, and I can pop off this cap. Once I pop that cap off, it looks exactly like the GE. Okay. So I've got 2 choices on how to start this. I can either take a Phillips head screwdriver, push it in around that gear, and start to slowly turn it. If I do that, that's fine. But then I have another way that I can do it. And the other way is I stick my fingers in behind the arm, and I can pull the arm up slowly. If I go too fast, I will actually strip the gear, and I got to replace the gear. Okay, this is on a ice maker. That's the M116. Okay, if the gear doesn't advance, look at the motor gears. Okay, and determine if the gear is bad or if there's an issue with the motor. If there's an issue with the motor, I can replace this motor. If there's an issue with the gear, I can replace the gear. If whenever I was working for Frigidaire, I made sure that I had this gear on my truck and that motor on my truck. There's nothing worse than a customer wanting ice. Okay. Okay. As the cam advances, when the arm reaches about 11 o'clock, the water valve would energize. When the water will be added to the ice maker, if you need more or less water, I can adjust it right here. Okay. But once again, I will not adjust it, but with a quarter of a turn. Okay. That's the old way. The new way, I'm going to check if the water is getting into the ice maker. I'm going to make sure that the unit is turned on. I have a green light right there that tells me it's on. Okay. I have a reset button. Okay. So I'm going to mash this reset button and start it. Okay. If I mash that reset button and it starts, if you depress the reset the button, you'll need to hold the arm up. Okay. Or after one rotation, the ice maker will stop. So the unit will dump ice. So make sure you put a container under it. Then it'll complete the cycle. If it doesn't, with the water, I'm going to have to check the water valve, and then I'm going to have to check the inlet tube and check the freezer temperature. That's the three things that I check if this doesn't cycle properly. Okay. Here's where I was talking about the same one that works for Whirlpool has one. It's the same. These are very close. Okay. So I need to check the freezer temperature. I'm going to make sure that I am around 0 for the ice maker to work properly. If it's too high, and it never cycles. Okay. If it's too cold, it will not fill properly, and the complaint will be either hollow cubes, small cubes, or no water to the ice maker at all. So then I've got to go and I've got to figure out what it is. At that point, I'm going to have to remove the ice maker, make sure that the fill tube is not frozen up. If the fill tube is frozen up, I'm going to have to remove the fill tube so that I can get it warm. You can use you can also use a steamer to help you get that fill tube out. So you want to do that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? We ran over a little bit, but that's okay. I just need to know if anybody has any questions. Answer as okay. You said in regard to using the steamer to remove the ice chain, to be careful, following swiftly by disclosing the refrigerator line under the ice maker. Where are you saying to be careful with the refrigerator line? Okay, so Randy, the line, this right here is where this line, whenever you drop this, whenever you pull this down, it will expose this refrigerator line. Okay. This refrigerator line runs in a whole circle right here. Okay. You have to be very careful. I use just my very fingertip on it. Okay. If I'm not careful with that, that's where you run into a whole lot of problems, and I've ruined a whole refrigerator. Did that answer your question, Randy? Oh, no, because you're not getting that. Your steamer actually is not what you worry about. The only thing that you're really actually trying to be so careful of is whenever I go to separate that.